What's up, sports fans? This is the NCAA College Sports Channel. It is time to give you my upset alert games heading into Week 9 of the 2025 college football season. Going back to my upset alert games from last week in week number 8, it was definitely a lot better compared to the week before in week number 7. We had 4 out of the 8 games turned out to be upsets. I'll get to those games here right now. First, we had the couple of Friday night games that I knew would definitely possibly be upsets. I did say at least one of those would turn out to be upset, but it definitely, played out to where it was a couple of those games instead of just one of them, and also instead of 0. We had Louisville upset Miami on the road. We had Minnesota upset Nebraska at home. And then on Saturday, we had BYU upset Utah. And then the other Big 12 game was Arizona State pulling off the upset against Texas Tech. So those were the 4 upsets that happened last week. How about week number 9? Do we have any more upsets in store for us before we get into the month of November? That's where, of course, the real season starts to begin. And playoff hopes will be on the line. But I feel like it could be a quiet weekend. There's not a ton of big games like it has been in the last couple of weeks, but you never know. An upset definitely can happen anytime in any place, and I wouldn't be surprised if we did see an upset that maybe nobody saw coming. So let's go ahead and get into these games. We're going to go from the least likely and work our way to the most likely upsets, in my opinion. So we'll start here with UCLA at Indiana. This one will be at noon Eastern time on Fox. Indiana's favored by 25.5 points, and I think people are saying, why is this game on the video? Look, I get it. Indiana's undefeated. They're 7-0. There's no way they're going to go down here. And I'll be real. I don't think an upset will definitely happen in this game. But you look at UCLA. They're a sneaky 3-4 team in the Big Ten. This is a team that started 0-4. They've lost their first 4 games of the year, and now they're 3-4. They have won 3 games in a row. All of a sudden, UCLA is playing really good football, and they have a chance to probably come back from the dead in the college football playoff race, which I don't really see happening because I don't think a 4-loss team is going to make the Big Ten championship. But this is looking like a pretty good UCLA team, a pretty balanced team. They got new coordinators, and they seem like they're playing a really good football, as a team as of right now. But look, I don't think an upset will definitely happen here, but it definitely kind of maybe worries you if you are an Indiana football fan. Let's say Indiana's kind of overlooking this UCLA team. If they're kind of overlooking them, then Indiana might get, upsetted in this game. So yeah, Indiana has to really bring their A game in this one, I think, in order to kind of show us that they are a dominant football team. And if they don't, I think Indiana's going to go down this weekend. So back then we saw what happened, of course, to Penn State. They were like a top 10 team, and they got beat by this UCLA team. I feel like they kind of overlooked them, but I think it was also because of the travel, and also UCLA has to travel, so it's definitely probably going to affect them. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA was at least competitive in this game, but I don't really expect them to. So yeah, Indiana, UCLA, again, this is one that really kind of worries you, but it's not really, I think, going to happen, in my opinion, because Indiana is just too good, and Kirk Cernetti's got this Indiana football team right where it needs to be, and also a very talented team as well. Next up, we stay in the Big Ten. We got Michigan at Michigan State. This one is at 7:30 Eastern time on NBC. Michigan's favored by 14.5 in this one. Obviously, this is a rivalry game. When it comes to rivalry games, any upsets can definitely happen in these kind of rivalry games, and this is kind of one of them. You look at Michigan this year, obviously they did bounce back last week after a loss to USC a couple weeks ago on the road. Michigan has kind of struggled on the road this year. They only got one road win, and that's against Nebraska, which obviously, looking back to that game, that's a game they probably could have lost because they only won by 3. Their defense just played pretty well, and Nebraska just really couldn't move the football in that game. So yeah, Michigan, that's probably their only best win of the year besides Washington. I mean, they did look good against Washington. The run game looked really good in that game. Michigan State is a team that I haven't watched at all this year. I don't really know how good Michigan State is. All I know is they've lost 4 in a row. This is a team that started out 3-0. I think the only time when I talked about them was when I was doing a game picks and prediction video, and I did kind of predict the Michigan State and Boston College game, and I'm not sure if they won that game. So Yeah, this is a rivalry game, though. Michigan State's a 3-4 team. Are they kind of due for a big win here at this point? I mean, obviously, it's against their big rival in Michigan. You got to wonder if they'll come out fired up. And this is also another road game. And again, if Michigan's road game, struggles continue, then this definitely could be an upset alert kind of game. So, yeah, keep an eye on this one, though. Although I don't know if I see it happening because Michigan State is just not a very good football team, and they've lost 4 in a row. So I don't know if I feel confident with the Spartans pulling off the upset. Next up, another rivalry game. Speaking of rivals, Tennessee at Kentucky. This one is at 7:45 Eastern Time on the SEC Network. Tennessee is favored by 9.5. That's a pretty low number in my opinion. I feel like Tennessee should be favored by more than that because you look at Kentucky, they are not a great football team at all. They just don't have a great offense this year. They do have a pretty good defense that probably can slow this Tennessee football team down. Tennessee's got an explosive offense, but Tennessee, how did they bounce back after a loss to Alabama? That's definitely a big question mark there. Tennessee definitely had a chance, to definitely beat Alabama, but they just made too many mistakes in that game. The first half interception really cost them, to get back in that game, and Tennessee just did not look good in that game. So you got to wonder if Tennessee is kind of due for a letdown here against Kentucky. It's a rivalry game. Anything is really possible, but I'm not really feeling confident either with Kentucky pulling off the upset. It's really just it's really just like UCLA and Indiana, and then Michigan and Michigan State. You got to wonder if Tennessee is going to have like some kind of letdown here, and then also, like I said, Tennessee definitely should be the better team here, but it is a rivalry game. Anything is possible, and Kentucky nearly beat Texas last week. You got to wonder if they'll be fired up for this one because maybe Mark Stoops is on the hot seat. I think if Mark Stoops wins this game, he will keep his job, but if he doesn't, I think Kentucky will definitely fire him after this game, and that's kind of been the history of the rivalry. When Tennessee, fired their head coaches, it was always after the Kentucky loss, and then for Kentucky, Mark Stoops has been there for a long time, and Tennessee, I think, has won like 4 or 5 in a row, so yeah, Kentucky, are they due for a must-win here, or are they like due for, pulling off an upset? I don't think so. I think Tennessee is probably going to survive this one and take care of business and bounce back after last week's loss to Alabama. Moving on, we got Houston at Arizona State. This one is at 8 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN2. Arizona State's favored by 7.5 in this one. You got Arizona State coming off a win against Texas Tech last week. I was really impressed with their defense, but they nearly let Texas Tech come back in that game. I mean, if you go back and watch that game, Arizona State had a very comfortable lead going into halftime. They pretty much controlled the game with their defense, and then their offense kind of did slow down the pace. But Texas Tech's got a good defense, so that was why really the score was pretty low last week. They're taking on a Houston team that is not a bad football team. They're 6-1. The only loss coming to Texas Tech, of course, which obviously was not even close. I think Houston actually has a pretty good shot to pull off the upset here. Sam Leavitt was back from injury, of course, after Arizona State lost, a couple weeks ago to Utah. Arizona State with him, at quarterback. Arizona State's a really tough team to beat. So I don't know if an upset will play out here, but these are two pretty good football teams. I think they're both pretty dead even. I mean, honestly, Connor Wingman's got a lot of experience at the quarterback position for Houston. So, yeah, this one definitely should be a pretty good one. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if the Cougars do actually pull off the upset. And if they do that, Houston might have a chance to make the Big 12 championship at the end of the year. Moving on, we got Texas at Mississippi State. This one is at 4:15 Eastern Time on the SEC Network. Texas favored by 7. I mean, that's a really high number there as well for a road game. And Texas did not look good last week. Let's be honest, they're kind of back to their old ways. They look good against Oklahoma, and then they look bad against Kentucky. Which Texas team will show up in this one? Will it be the Texas team that we saw against Oklahoma, or will it be the team against Kentucky? Mississippi State is not a bad football team. They're coming off a tough loss to Florida last week, which Florida obviously lost. Florida fired Billy Napier after that game, which honestly wasn't a surprise. And that was a game that Mississippi State definitely had won. And then obviously Florida kicks the game-winning field goal, I believe. So, yeah, tough loss for the Bulldogs. I don't think Mississippi State's won a conference game this year. I think they have, but I really can't remember who was against. chance. But yeah, Mississippi State is a team that is a really quality football team, and they're 4-3. But this is not really a bad team at all. And also, this is where the Cowbells will be going, and I think that's really going to be tough on Arch Manning here to handle. So yeah, I think Mississippi State actually can pull off the upset here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did that because, again, Texas so inconsistent all year long. And which Texas team is going to show up? Is it going to be the Texas team that we saw against Oklahoma, where their defense was super dominant, and then their offense kind of clicked in? Or is it going to be the Texas team that we saw last week against Kentucky, where it was just so much inconsistency, but their defense really kept them in the game? So keep an eye on this one in the SEC. Moving on, we got a Group of 5 game for the first time this season on these upset alert videos. We got South Florida at Memphis. This one is at noon Eastern time on ESPN2. South Florida is favored by 5.5 in this one. We're expecting a big shootout here in this game. The over and under is at 63.5. Both teams coming in at 6-1. We saw Memphis lose their first game of the season to UAB, which obviously was kind of a big shock there. I mean, it didn't really shock me, but it just definitely kind of surprised me that Memphis lost because this is a pretty good Memphis team. South Florida, though, I think has been the most consistent team out of the Group of 5 teams this year. The one loss, of course, came to Miami back in like week number 3, I believe. And yeah, they were kind of competitive there, but they weren't really competitive too long. And South Florida definitely, South Florida's got a couple of nice wins this year against Boise State and then also Florida, which was against a Power 4 team. Yeah, South Florida's got a pretty good offense. Their defense seems like it's a lot better compared to where it's been in the last couple of years. And yeah, Memphis is definitely playing at home. This is definitely one to keep an eye on. It's a pretty big Group of 5 matchup. It kind of decides, both teams' playoff hopes, which, team has, the best path going into the college football playoff the rest of the year. So yeah, Memphis definitely capable of pulling off the upset. You got to wonder if Memphis was kind of overlooking UAB last week and looking ahead to this game. Will they bring their A game in this one? I think they will because I think they were overlooking UAB last week and looking ahead to this game. So keep an eye on this one. We could very well see a big upset play out here at the Group of 5 level, and South Florida definitely put them on upset alert. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if South Florida did win this game. And then we go to Missouri at Vanderbilt. Probably the game of the weekend. This one is at 3:30 Eastern time, but surprisingly, it's on ESPN. Vanderbilt's favored by 2.5 in this one. Both of these teams got pretty much similarities. They're both 6-1. They're both ranked in the top 15. Vanderbilt's ranked number 10. But you got Missouri. They're coming off a double overtime win against, Auburn last weekend. They were able to escape in that game. This is Missouri's second road game in a row. So yeah, they haven't really had a ton of road games this year. And I feel like this will be not the toughest environment that they'll play in, but it will definitely be against another team that's really definitely on their level. Vanderbilt is a team that has just been so consistent all year long. This is a pretty good football team, and Diego Pavia is one of the toughest quarterbacks, I think, in the SEC. Yeah, both of these teams, both of their one loss, of course, coming to Alabama. Missouri was definitely more competitive against Alabama, but they had Alabama at home, and Vanderbilt had to play Alabama on the road. So, yeah, both of these teams, one loss coming to Alabama. Vanderbilt wasn't competitive, but they had to go on the road for that game. So, yeah, pretty similar teams. I think this is a pretty even matchup. It's definitely one to watch for, and I wouldn't be surprised if Missouri did pull off the upset here. But at the same time, I feel like Vanderbilt's played better football than Missouri. But I think both defenses are pretty even as well. It's just a really even matchup. Two 6-1 teams and two teams ranked in the top 15. And College Game Day is going down here for this game. So I feel like it's the game of the weekend if College Game Day is going down here. So this one's at 3:30 Eastern time on ESPN. And then finally, probably the most likely upset in the SEC this weekend, we got Texas A&M at LSU. This one will be at 7:30 Eastern time on ABC. Texas A&M's favored by 2.5. Texas A&M comes in undefeated, ranked number 3 in the AP poll. We don't really know how good Texas A&M is. I mean, yeah, they beat Notre Dame earlier in the year, and then they were coming off a close win against Arkansas last weekend. Are we not really sure about Texas A&M? Are they like a top 5 team? Are they definitely for real as a playoff team as well? Yeah, they're 7-0, but they're playing on the road here. LSU at night in Death Valley. This is one of the toughest places places to play in all of college football. I know LSU has not looked great this year, especially on the offensive side of the football, but playing at home, that definitely makes them a little bit comfortable. You know, their defense is pretty dominant. You got to wonder if Whit Weeks will play in this game. He was out last weekend against Vanderbilt. You got to wonder if that will help the LSU defense, having a leader there on the defensive side of the football. And if the offense can continue, not continue, but if the LSU offense can just get going in this game, then LSU's got a pretty good shot here to pull off the upset. Again, it's in Death Valley. It's at night. It's really a tough place to play at nighttime, and it's really tough to beat LSU in Death Valley at night. So Texas A&M could go down for the first time this weekend. This is definitely one to keep an eye on, but I wouldn't be surprised if LSU continues their offensive struggles and their defense cannot, contain Marcel Reed with his running ability. Then Texas A&M might remain undefeated, but this might be the most likely upset to happen here this weekend. So those are all my upset alert games heading into week number 9 of the 2025 college football season. Who do you think goes down this week? And also, which team do you think pulls off the big upset? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on the NCAA College Sports YouTube channel.